Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Gova. I'm largely responsible for the Money Systems Transparency Alliance, the MSTA, along with other colleagues. Um, what I want to do is give you a, a brief overview of our project, starting from our website material, make it easier for you to get into it on your own and read about it. Uh, Hopefully, this will spur more interest into what we're doing because it's something of great importance and significance today uh, in, in many ways. So just to start, so we're the Money Systems Transparency Alliance. The idea there is that we're an alliance of people that align ourselves, if you will, along the idea that money needs to be transparent, but not so much transparent in how, in terms of your bank account and all that, but in transparent conceptually. In other words, do we really know what we're talking about, and is the knowledge that's shared by people who have who run the system the same as what we have? Is the information they have correct? Can it be evaluated? Can it be understood? All these things, and should we all have a common understanding of what money is and what its purpose is? This is what this is all about. So if we can start here in the summary, and hopefully this will give you a sort of a good idea. No? So the first thing that we think about, and the first statement we have, is that the MSTA is a project that empowers us. It empowers us by understanding the facts of money's misrepresentation. So that's a pretty powerful statement. But what we're saying there is that money is, in our day-to-day use, money is misrepresented. And that's not a good idea, right? To have us all working with this thing called money and our understanding of it being wrong. But we say that it is wrong, and we will show unequivocally that it is. But before we do that, let's try and understand why we would think about this, and why it's important, or why do we need to know what money is in an unequivocal fashion. And the reason is that if we think about money and its definition, and we ask if we know the following, do we know these three things? Do we know if the notion that we have of money is logically valid? Do we know whether that notion is common to everyone? And do we know that it's actually documented somewhere? I mean, is there somewhere that we can all look and use our common logic and understanding and reasoning and say, this is what they say money is. Is it that? And is it not that? And there's a clear statement, common ratified statement, or standard specification or definition of money, not just in a colloquial sense of how we use money, but in a formal scientific sense. And I have to make emphasis on formal scientific because our lives are pretty much affected. Our lives are pretty much affected by money on many levels, and pretty much all levels. And it is, we have these experts, financial and economic experts, that are performing all these mathematical operations or representing money, and if you look at your mortgage and you go to the appendix, you'll see that there's a lot of math there that most people don't understand, and that's related to how we use money. So we have this symbol, which is usually the currency of the country in which you're living in, the dollar or the euro or the yen or whatever. And this symbol is used in terms of a series of mathematical operations that relate to time and your life and your house or your business or your car, and your student loan, whatever. And all of these things are linked in mathematical operations using this symbol. But if that symbol isn't formally defined in an unequivocal fashion, then the validity of those mathematical expressions falls into question, because you say, what are we talking about? And we can think, for example, that if we talk about a meter or we talk about a kilogram, we can refer, in the case of a meter, for to put it in the simplest, most colloquial terms, for ever so long, it referred to a platinum rod that was held in Paris, which was the standard. And so the meter was this length of this platinum rod. And so we knew that all the rulers that represented the length of a meter, all the rulers were equivalent to that, right? And so you could take your ruler that you bought at the store and go to Paris and look and say, yeah, that's a meter. And so we all had an understanding, but notice that the definition of the meter was not in terms of the term meter. It was in terms of a distance, an empirically observable distance, something that we could see and evaluate independently of the term meter. Similarly with the kilogram, for ever so long, the kilogram represented a mass, and it was literally a mass of water, right, H2O, at 4 degrees Celsius, or just above freezing. And that was the mass of a kilogram. Again, the kilogram was not defined in terms of itself, or kilos or kilograms. It was defined in terms of a physical phenomenon, which was a volume of water at 4 degrees Celsius that had a certain force or weight, right? And that was the definition of a kilogram. So in both kilogram and meter, we could go out and evaluate, each of us independently of anyone else, right, what the meter was. But in the case of a dollar or the euro or any currency symbol or money symbol, we don't have that. In other words, if you press economists and financiers to define money in such a scientific fashion, they all end up saying, well, money is a dollar, or money is the amount a dollar can buy. A dollar is the amount of value a dollar can buy. It's always got dollar in there. And that's called circular logic. And that's, a taboo. I mean, it's a no-no in any kind of serious science. So we don't have a rational definition of money that relates money to our reality. We have notions of money that we use every day, but we don't understand. So if we go through this little exercise and we ask ourselves, we think about definition of money that we have in our mind. Now, what is money? When we just say, well, money is this, that, or whatever, and I use it for this, this, and that, and you can say, well, have you worked it out? Is it logically valid or not? And you're not required to know what you don't know, right? You say, well, I don't know. We're pretty much all excused because we've all inherited money, and we've just assumed it is whatever it is, and we've accepted it, and we've basically, organized our lives around it, but we don't really understand what money is, and that's no problem. We can say, I don't understand. So if you don't understand, then you join our project, because we're going to find out exactly what it is, what it can be, what it cannot be, and we're going to make that an issue for the experts to consider before they continue running our lives, right? So, but if we were to say, no, to me it's logical, right? And you say, okay, so it's logical to you, your definition that you have in your head. So the question is, well, that's not enough, because, we have an idea in our heads, but since we never use money on our own, we always use money in conjunction with other people. The next question is that definition that you think is logical, is it common to everyone, right? And if you think it's logical, by the way, people are not required to know what they don't know, but they are required to prove what they affirm or assert as knowing, right? As true. So it's not enough just to say, I think it's logical. No, you have to say, I can prove it's logical. If you can't prove your logic, then you don't know. So, but if you think you can prove it, or you just assume it's logical, well, you might say, okay, you can maybe get away with that, but you have to now determine whether other people have that same notion. And that's pretty hard, because you can't really go and get into other people's heads and know exactly what they're thinking. And technical specifications, things so as important as money, should be defined in a very precise way. And if there's any difference in that understanding, it could make a big difference in a contract between two people on the basis of that understanding. So if you say, is it common? I don't know. If you don't know, again, You may have a good idea of what money is. You may even harbor a very logical idea of what money is, but that may not be. You have to know that that is the same notion everyone else has. And if you don't have that notion, then that's where our project comes in, because our project's about admitting we don't know, and admitting and capturing the power of that, right? The power of admitting that we don't know. And that's going to come in the next little section here. So if you think you have a logical, if you don't think you have a logical understanding, then you don't know, you come here. If you think you do, you come here and you ask whether it's common to everyone, and you say to yourself, well, I think it's common to everyone. Fine, you're free to arrive at that conclusion. If you don't know, again, you fall down here, and that's what we're going to work on, making sure that we all share the same common understanding. But if you don't have, if you're pretty sure that everyone has the same understanding, well, to check yourself and to be really responsible or consequential, you say, okay, all right, so if you think everyone has it, where's it written? How do we know? Are we going to get everybody to write down their definition of money and then post it on Facebook, and then somebody's going to go around and read a billion people's definition of money to make sure it's the same one and figure it out? Or are we all going to say, no, we all agree with the standard definition of money that's over here, and here it is? And it's not just a question of agreeing. Remember, we're going to prove it's logically valid. So we believe we have a logically valid definition. We believe it's common to everyone, and we know it is because this is what it is, and it's written here. It's formally published somewhere in a logically valuable fashion that everyone can look at and say, yeah, this is conclusively, unequivocally a meaningful definition. This is exactly what money is, and we all point to that. So if that's the case, then that has to exist, but it doesn't. There is no place in the world where anyone sat down and said, let's specify money like we've specified scientific units, in the System International of units, where every unit is clearly laid out exactly what it relates to, what it represents, etc. And anyone can consult that, and whenever they deal with any of those units, they can point that to someone else and have a discussion about how to use those units, right? So there's a common, logical, objective way of determining what those units mean. That doesn't exist with money. So there's a lot of philosophy about it. There's a lot of discussion and argumentation about it, but nobody's done it. And I think that that's important, because if you don't have this, you can't really know that your definition is common to everyone. And if indeed your definition is logically valid, which you'd have to be able to prove. So this is what the Money Systems Transparency Alliance is about. It's about answering all those questions in a way and then publishing the results so that everyone knows exactly what money is. And then everyone now, when they use money and they deal with money, that we can all refer to a common, unequivocal understanding of money. And now, when we use those symbols, the euro and the yen or whatever, or currency or whatever happens, when we finally define what the concept money is, then we'll decide what the meaning or the purpose of having different units are. But once we've done that, then everything will make a lot more sense, and it'll be really transparent. Everyone will be able to know and understand what they're doing. And most importantly, we'll also understand what the scope of money is. What's its purpose, and up to which point does it have to affect our lives? Because right now it affects all aspects of our lives in a way that no one really understands. And that is unacceptable, because there's a hierarchy of power and control based on the use of money, but no one in that hierarchy, the bottom or the top, really know what they're doing. And that's the fact. No one has any conclusive understanding of what they're doing, because they don't know what the unit is. And like I said before, those mathematical expressions are not logically determinable, because we don't know what the unit means. So, if I write a mathematical equation with a unit that you don't understand, and you don't even know how that relates to our common reality, then you can say, well, that's very interesting mathematics, very, very fascinating, but I don't know how that applies to my real world, and you don't either. So you can only know that when you define it properly. So just to send this, to to understand why this is there's an imperative to do this work, is we have to understand that principles of law require that when we sign contracts, that for those contracts to be valid, people have to have a common understanding of the objects of those contracts. So an object of the contract is the thing we're contracting. So if we're contracting money, then we have to have a common, valid understanding of it. It's not just enough to have a meeting of the minds, where we say, oh, we agree, two people agree. No, no, no. You have to agree on a valid basis, because if you agree on an invalid basis, and the judge, maybe not being an expert in your field, might let you do it, right? But then later, any one of you can come up and say, hey, what we're doing doesn't make any sense, and now the contract's invalid. Because if you can prove that, if you can prove forensically, so to speak, that something isn't what it was thought to be, then the contract around that idea that was thought to be and is proven now not to be, no longer, that invalidates the contract. So anybody expecting to get any kind of gains or any having any rights established under the contract, they lose those rights, right? And not only that, is that people who write these contracts are required to proactively assist in understanding, or in the understanding of all the terms that are in the contract, particularly the authors of the contract. So when we talk about the MSTA project, that's a project that everyone should come to. Bankers, central banks, everyone should be involved in this project. Anyone who's involved in any kind of these economic contracts should be involved in defining money, and should be able to, and should be required to participate proactively. Because if they don't, if they say, look, if you guys don't know what money is, it's because, we do, and you signed the contract. No, that doesn't work, because I'm telling you now that I signed that contract under an impression that I understood what money is, and I don't understand what money is now. I'm realizing that not only I don't understand it, doesn't seem anyone really understands at all. So I'm asking you to clarify what is money, and then see if our contract makes sense in terms of that definition. And if you say you're not going to participate, well, the judge would say, sorry, if you're not going to proactively help in understanding the clarifying the definition of that, then the law can't support your rights in the contract, so you lose all your rights to that. So this is why this is really important to all of us, right? Let's be very clear and transparent about it all. So that pretty much wraps up the introduction. I hope I've given you good food for thought for the next video. But the next video, if you found this one interesting, you should be interested in knowing why I think, or we can show that money is indeed misrepresented. So what we're saying here is that money has a common understanding, but that understanding is flawed. That understanding is not logically coherent. In other words, it's invalid. So remember, we always said logically valid, not just logically agreed, logically valid. And we're going to show that our common notion, everyday notion of money, is seriously flawed. And that's the reason why we need to do this too. And then we'll even talk about how we can go about it in a subsequent video of how to do this in a way that doesn't hurt anyone and doesn't cause any harm to anyone. In fact, makes life easier for everyone, for Jeff Bezos, or the richest man on the planet, to the poorest people on the planet. It's going to make life simpler, clearer, and it's going to enable us in many ways, which is why we say that the MSTA is the cause to enable all causes. And this you will come to understand in the next video. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for listening, and until next time, I'm Mark Gauvin. All the best from MSTA.